Hello, 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 everybody. Good evening, good evening. Good to see everybody coming in here. Hey, Texas Brat, you're number one in here tonight, girl. Here you go. All right. I appreciate that. Number one. Good to see you, PG. Much love. God bless. Prayers to you and your family. And prayers and love to Summer Moon, Utah Wells. Prayers and love for Miss Norway. And prayers and love for everybody in the chat. Hey, girl, we so appreciate it. God bless. You number one. God bless. There we go. Why am I not surprised? Right? Miss Justice 111. Number two. Number two. Hey, girl, I know you was going to be in the top four. I knew it. Much love, PG. Much love to you, girlfriend. Good to see you in here. Texas Blue 22. All right. Good to see you. Number three in here tonight. Number three. And let's see who is number four. Oh, wow. Deputy Sheriff, number four. Yeehaw, y'all. All right. There you go. Number four. Good to see you, Deputy. Good to see you in here, sweetie. God bless. Much love. All right. Let's get down through here. Hey, 9959. How you doing? Good to see you in here. And there, Australia. How you doing, girl? How you doing? God bless. Good to see you. Good to see you, girlfriend. Absolutely. Absolutely, Brat. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Please hit that thumbs up button. Yes, it does help the channel. It does. Hey, Carrie. How you doing, sweetie? Hey, beautiful PG Mods chat. Good to see y'all. Much love. Much love to you, girl. Much love to you. Let me see who else is in here. Aha, little Miss PG. There she is. Hello, my beautiful mama PG. Much love, prayers for you and your family. Hey, girl, much love and prayers to you and yours as well. God bless. Much love to everybody in here and prayers to you and yours. Amen. Hey, Australia, appreciate that. I appreciate it. Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to see. I'm hoping I'm not missing. If I miss you, I am so sorry. Hey, there's 9898. Lady Q, how you doing? Georgia Wild Child. Karen, how you doing? Hey, Nurse Cindy, how you doing tonight, sweetie? God bless. Much love. Bridget, how you doing? Pauline, good to see you. Amanda, there you are, girlfriend. 1085. There we go. God bless. Oh, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful right there. Purple hearts for summer. Amen. Stephanie, that's beautiful. She got love, sending love out to Carrie. Okay, if I missed you, I am so sorry. Suzanne, how you doing, sweetie? How you doing? Good to see you. Hello, PG and all. Hello to you. Good to see you, girlfriend. Anyway, we got quite a few people in here. Please do hit the thumbs up. It's free. It's free. Help the channel. Help the channel. Help keep these kids out here. God, they will, if they could, they would thank you. They would thank you. You want to keep everybody out here working for the kids. Amen. Hey, all day. There we go. All right. Member for 14 months. Hey, girl, I appreciate it. I appreciate the support for Summer's channel. You know it. You know it. I bet Ziggy is pacing. You know, that's not our problem, right? She's probably pacing anyway. You know, Ziggy, she's always looking all antsy and picking at her arms, picking at her face, picking. something. I don't know, I don't know what causes her to do that, but she's always picking and tugging and pulling. Um, kind of sad to watch it and see it, right? Because usually it's, usually when people do things like that, it leads back to substance abuse, right? We all know that. We all know that. It's not like, you know, it's not like it's a secret. We all know it. And it's just really sad to see people do those kind of things. I wish the whole world, I wish the whole world could, you know, put put distributors, the distributors of illegal substances out of business. I wish the whole world would just quit, I wish they would all say no. They would all just say no. I'm not making somebody else, I'm not making somebody else rich. I'm not buying somebody else, big houses and new cars and fine clothes. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to put it in my bank account and I'm going to take care of my family, me and my family with it, right? I wish people would start thinking about, you know, making something out of their life. Get off that stuff. Nobody needs it. Nobody needs it. But, you know, easier said than done. Easier said than done, you guys. But she's pacing anyway. And, the skillet turning on the stove. She's pacing back and forth, picking, yanking, pulling. Can't sit still. I don't know. It is what it is. I don't know. I gotta wonder, is it all that woo woo stuff? Is it illegal substances? I don't know. It's something, ain't it? It's something. That's all I can say. Got something in there going wrong. But anyhow, listen, you guys. I need you guys to bear with me. I'm going to get to Fred. I'm going to get to Fred. But I was speaking with someone. I was speaking with someone earlier this evening, and I promised them that I would put out some things so they could, get more affiliated with Summer's case. They're interested in some stuff, and I said, hey, we got the proof right out of the horse's mouths, and I'm going to play it out for you, and and you can take it from there. So I'm going to do that before we start tonight. Okay. So just bear with PG. This is important. This is important to get done tonight. And then we will go from there straight into what we have on Fred. So let's get this started. I believe Ziggy's, in the family way, you know, um, when she could show proof to that, let us see, let us see some proof to that one, you know. I mean, I hope she is. I hope she is. You know, maybe it'll straighten her up and get her on the right path, and she'll do better with this one than she did, with her daughter, right? Hopefully she is.
You said you had.
Where the fuck you get that shit from?
Don, you said you had video.
Now, that was the 911 call that Don and Candace Wells tried to say happened because Jose was there, and Don rushed back from, Utah to throw Jose out. As you can see, that 911 call had nothing to do with Jose, other than Jose telling Candace, if you do not get Summer out of that shower, I'm going to. Actually, Jose was the one that went and got the towel and handed it to Candace and said, if you don't get her out, I'm getting her out. And you can tell the 911 call was nothing about, Dom rushing back, nothing about, an argument or altercation between Don and Jose. This was an altercation of Don going after Summer because he felt that he owned this child. He felt that no one could tell him what to do with this child, and he had some right to, violate people in very bad ways because, he's got some type of ownership. Don doesn't understand boundaries. He don't understand boundaries. And it's clear as the nose on our faces that this 911 call was all about Summer and what Don was doing to Summer. And that's not my opinion. That's the truth. We heard it. We heard this little girl hollering. We heard Candace telling this lady that he is going after my daughter. He is always hurting my daughter. He's always hurting Summer. You heard Candace, telling this. This 911 call was made on behalf of what Don was doing to little Summer. Nothing more, nothing less. Don Wells came back from Utah because he went up there, tried to take over his dad's property, just went up there and told his dad how he's going to bring his whole family, Grandis, Candace, all them kids up there and move in and take over just like he did in Tennessee to his mother. And he even was going to go toe-to-toe with his dad, try to overpower his dad if he had to the point other people had to step in and protect his dad from him. And his dad said, enough's enough. No, I want you out of here. And that's what got Don going back into Tennessee. Is Don didn't have no other choice but to leave. He was asked to leave, and he already knew about Jose. And Jose was already there for a while before this 911 call was made. Don, Candace, Grandis, they were all partying with Jose before this 911 call ever went down. And we know it. And Grandis took Jose out of there and got rid of him right after this 911 call. And Candace got a brand new vehicle to keep her mouth shut and drop the charges because of this 911 call. And we all know it. That's not my opinion. That's the truth. And we all know it.
Videotapes
Crap.
of me.
What happened? What did you say, Betty? I have videotapes of Josh, apparently. What the?
I don't know why you're laughing.
Holy
You're the one that said it.
Are you serious?
Don, you said.
How do you know that?
See, Josh, I guess Don was saying boss, and it sounds like Josh. So that was probably the confusion there. Don was saying he has video of his boss, not Josh. But Don clears it up. He clears it up.
I said that. Why would I say that?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Number one, I don't lie, bitch. You can get that through your.
I mean, everybody lies.
No, I don't lie. I don't lie, motherfucker.
I'm not sure why Candace thinks it's so funny. I can play it for you if you want to hear it.
Because my boss called me, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, look, Josh.
Okay.
You can scoff or you can suck a dick or whatever you want to do.
All right.
Whatever the fuck it is you do.
Do you really think someone with a missing child should be talking like this? I don't think so. I don't think so. Grieving parents don't talk like that.
You little
Yeah.
okay?
Right.
But my boss called me the other day. Man. Yes.
Okay.
Richard.
Oh.
He called me. I said that I sold somebody a tape, right? I sold some motherfucker a tape for $5,000 that showed him having sex with my daughter, right? And then I sold, and he was crying. This motherfucker was actually crying. This motherfucker is like a big shot of this community. Like, oh, holy fuck! And he was crying. He says, "But they're calling me a child molester," and I'm like, I started laughing.
Really? Really? I didn't find anything funny at all about what Don Wells just said. I found nothing funny about that at all. He sat there and he basically admits, it's a confession to me, a confession that, they were allowing people, humans, to do things to Summer while they video recorded it. Very disgusting, yes. Very disgusting. And Candace and him just laugh and laugh and laugh like it's a joke. Who does that? Who does that? I'm going to tell you. Evilness has no boundaries. This type of evilness has no boundaries.
I don't know. I can't tell you
Okay.
because I don't know. I have a lot of suspicion. Let me sit back and say, I have a problem with Allie, Jose, Jody, Sue, Andy, Donnie. I mean, I could list a whole bunch of people.
I already knew, and I already knew that she was put into a car and taken from here.
Yeah.
I knew that from day one. I knew that from the second that it happened, but trying to explain that to the police is like trying to talk to a brick wall.
I remember you told me that you had the weird feeling. You want to explain to like the people listening about that weird feeling?
Now you heard Candace just say that she had all of these people, her suspicions of all of these people. Well, you know, the one person she didn't mention was herself. And when you point a finger at everybody else, there's always 4 pointing back at you, right? And Don Wells, his "that's so Raven" moments, right? When this picture was taken, it was taken 18 days exactly before Summer disappeared. It was taken the day that Summer was out there dancing in the rain in front of them 4 cell girls. That was the very day that Dudley, the very guy that Don Wells fired on the 14th in order to blame everything that went down on the 15th on Dudley. He fires Dudley on the 14th because he already has a plan to piss somebody off. So when law enforcement says, is there anybody? Because they always ask, is there anybody that might want to do something like this? Does anybody angry with you or your family? Oh, Don wanted to be able to say, yeah, this coworker, I just fired him yesterday and my daughter's gone today. But luckily, Dudley's truck was all broken down and he was at home the whole day with neighbors trying to help him fix his vehicle. And he was able to prove where he was. Because if he wouldn't have been able to prove it, Don planned on law enforcement making Dudley the #1 suspect in his daughter's disappearance, right? After they wasn't able to find Mr. Dobbs. They went looking. I think when they saw Mr. Dobbs on June 14th, they didn't expect him to come in to Ben Hill taking over his property. And, you know, and they thought, wow, this might be a better choice than Dudley, right? This old man with a dog, he might be a better choice. So after dark, they went out looking for Mr. Dobbs. And luckily, he didn't go to none of the places that they suggested. Because if he had, he probably would have been the #1 suspect, right? Why would they go out looking for this man that, you know, that they had law enforcement, they called law enforcement, wouldn't let him, he has a deed to his property up there inside Ben Hill Road. He wants to see his property and take over his property. That's what he come there for. And these people say, no, we're not letting you have that property. We're going to give you all kinds of trouble and we're going to get you out of here. And they even called law enforcement on him. And they sent him out of there, you know, to get a hold of the realtor again and find out, you know, what's going on. Why he hasn't got a right of way to his property. What, you know, how could they sell a piece of land that has no right of way? You know, he has to clear this up. So he goes to a different hotel than they suggested. And he's on camera all day long, so they know. But he was one of the victims of Don and Candace Wells. One of the people they threw under the bus, had people looking at, people, you know, going after. Because that's what Don and Candace is good at doing. And a lot of people were going after Dudley to the point him and his wife had to come out here and they had to clear up themselves, right? But on 18 days before Summer went missing, this picture right here was taken. And that's the day Don gave Dudley a ride. They were, you know, working far away from, you know, the job was pretty far out. So, and Dudley was already having issues with his vehicle. And he parked it at Don's house and went to work with Donald. When they got back, Dudley goes to, you know, get in his vehicle and maybe, you know, he was fiddling around with it because it had been giving him problems. I don't know what the case was. But he said, while he was out there getting ready to leave, he sees Don and Candace come out of the house with Summer looking just like this. Look, passed out, passed out. And they take her somewhere. And we don't know where they took her to this day. But they come out of the house. They don't take the boys. They just take Summer and they go somewhere with her. I find that very suspicious. 18 days later, Summer's completely missing. She's completely missing, right? But here's what Don says.
Yeah,
Had
I will.
beforehand.
It's not a weird feeling. It's when the angel tells you that something is going to happen to your kid or your daughter, which is what happened to me, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't understand at the time. But I knew 4 to 5 months prior that something was going to happen to Summer because an angel told me, and not with words. But you can take it for what you want. You can say that if you want to, y'all can just say that I'm crazy, or you can all can say that I'm just making up a story.
No, I don't
You
think
can
you're
say,
crazy at all.
no, not you, Dolly. I'm just saying your audience
Yeah.
can say whatever they want about me.
I didn't know it.
But not you, sir. But 4 to 5 months prior, something told me that something was going to be happening this summer. And I knew something was going to happen. And I asked Candace to please keep a sharp eye on her because something was going to happen. And then that picture that y'all might see on the internet or whatever, where I was holding her when she was sleeping. And I knew something told me at that moment that the time was short at hand, that something, whatever was going to happen, it was going to happen soon. And this is probably a week or two prior to her disappearance. And I was crying, and I knew that, and I said, Lord God, please. She was asleep in my arms, and I was like, Summer, I love you. I love you so much. And I just can't believe it. But I knew the time was short. So the day that she disappeared, and then when I come home from work and I drove to the bottom property and I see my neighbors and my boys searching for her, I knew at that instance that what
What he was starting to say, intended. I knew what was intended had already happened. Yeah, intended because it was pre-planned, premeditated, carried out. Exactly. Exactly, Don Wells. Exactly.
told to me by an angel that I assume was an angel, told me that it had been fulfilled. And I could not explain that to the police or anybody else, but I knew that she was gone.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And just a second, you guys. Just 1 second. All right, you guys. I'm sorry.
Alright. Well, that's good. Y'all go over there and ask why exactly it is he was selling drugs to the children at 110. Why he was potentially causing little girls over there to be sedated and to be touched with the shit he was selling them over there. Go ask. Because I have fucking questions. Not standing in front of him anymore. Yeah. And I found about.
She's not standing in front of him anymore. She's talking about Andy. Andy Bernard, her ex-old man, right? I'm not standing in front of him no more. Of course you're not, because the money ain't coming into your household. He just put a ring on another woman's finger. And all, and everything would be going into her household now. And Jody Sue was highly pissed, right? She's highly pissed. She just found out that Andy put a ring on some other woman. He didn't ever put one on her. She has 2 kids by him, been with him for years. He put no ring on it, but he decides to put one on someone else. And she's highly pissed. And here she comes out here to, tell some truth on him, because that's how scorned women are. I'd rather you be in jail than to be with that. As long as he wasn't married to it, she had a hope he would come back. But now that he locked it down, right, that ring is locking it down, she's scorned. She's pissed. And boy, she really came out and, she's giving some information about what's going on at 110. But she ain't through. She ain't through.
A few days before all the shit went down. I'm not kidding, dude. And I got the fucking receipts on it. And I'm sure law enforcement does as well. He had known Summer was also being abused, and he hid it from everybody, including me. And he was very much selling drugs to the children at 110. And to Candace for those children. Now, what all that was, I don't know. But I do know it was happening. And I very much think it plays a role in what was happening to other little girls over there. And I very much do think that it could be part of why Summer looked so asleep. Is maybe possibly Candace giving her the shit Andy was selling to her. So go ask. Because I still have fucking questions. And I think that it was occurring since before the Utah trip. It is part of why Josie was taken to Utah. Even though that was kind of a fucking lie, right? Why he went to Utah. But it's Andy's fault. And Candace's. You remember Candace saying Josie was, or Alice, or one of them, talking about how Josie was using, and it was the reason he was taken. It's not the reason Josie was taken out there. But shit occurring around that time is why. He's responsible for it. From before Utah until. So you go ask him why he was selling drugs to those children. And to Candace for the children. Go ask. And ask him what type other than weed.
And ask him what type other than weed. Right? She said, go ask Andy what he was selling Candace to sedate those little girls. Not just Summer, but other little girls. You go ask him. And you ask him what type it was. other than the goody good stuff, right? She said it was Andy's fault and Candace's fault. And she said, she didn't know until recently. But right before that, she said, I'm not going to protect him no more. So, right there, she told us, she does know. She always knew. And she says before the Utah trip, which was, about almost a year before Summer came up missing, right? 8 or 9 months. This stuff had been happening.
I have said this since the beginning to people that made a difference. That I've told people about having the dream that I've, in the open grave. It's been told. It's not a lie. And I have heard my whole life that the best time to get rid of somebody is when there's an open grave. The dude was buried on what day? The 18th? Okay, so 3 days after Summer went missing, they buried that dude. Do you think they dug the grave the day that Summer went missing? I'm saying it was dug between the day the dude died and the day Summer went missing, the 11th. Not if she went over there on the 15th when Candace left at some point in time off that fucking hill, took her over there. Maybe she went to Fred's and Fred helped her. If it was open on the 15th, all she would have had to do is go over there and dig down just a little bit more, put her in there, cover her back up. When they brought the vault in a few days before they buried the dude, the concrete vault would have been set on top of it, and nobody would have known no different. And we know who dug the graves. We know all that shit. So I don't think nobody would have paid any attention to if she was done in there the day of the 15th.
There you go. That's Andy Bernard. He says, nobody would have known. Nobody would have paid no attention to that grave. And he knew the dates. Like, I'm going to tell you, when people know dates, if you don't have nothing to do with nothing, you don't know dates, right? If you're innocent and you really had nothing to do with something, say something went down, you're out at a club or something, and all of a sudden something goes down and law enforcement's questioning you, and you had nothing to do with it. And then maybe, a month or two later, a year later, law enforcement, took your name. They come back to speak with you again about, that club or whatever back in the, at the time. And you're going to be like, I don't remember, I don't remember what day that was. I don't remember the date. I don't remember anything other than, being there, law enforcement asking some questions. And I can't be honest with you, you probably won't even remember what you even said to law enforcement because, you had nothing to do with it. You don't even care. You just move on with yourself. But if you had something to do with everything that went down there, oh, honey, let me tell you something. You're not going to forget that day, right? It's like 9/11 stuck in your head. You're going to remember everything. It's like June 15th, 2021, right? The day Summer came up missing. You can't forget it. You can't forget it. It's something that you just cannot forget. And, why can you not forget it? Because it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy, something that you're interested in, something that you want answers to, and you're just not going to forget it. And that's the same way, with Andy. He knows the day this guy passed away. He knows the date. It seems like he knows the date they dug this grave. And also he knows the date they put the man in it. I mean, he's sitting there like the 11th, she passed away on the 15th. This guy got stuck in there on the 18th. I mean, he is calculating it, and I'm going to tell you, like Andy, this dude don't remember nothing, right? He's one of those busy people with his life and so much going on. Unless it's something, significant, he's not going to remember. He's like everybody else in the world, going to and fro. And if you have something to do with something, you definitely are not going to forget that date. You just ain't going to forget it. right? And he's not forgetting it. Now, I could understand June the 15th, 2021, because it's been out here, over and over. It's like repetition, right? Over and over and over again. Everywhere you look, Summer's been missing, 6 months today. She's been missing, 180 days. She's been missing 200 and some days. She's been missing, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Everybody's marking the calendar with June 15th, 2021. But nobody's marking a calendar with Timothy Morson's grave up there. Nobody's marking a calendar with, him passing away on the 11th, him putting that grave on the 18th. Nobody's marking any of this on a calendar. But Andy knew the dates. Like they were branded, like they're branded in his head. And the only time people remember stuff like that, well, in my opinion, they had something to do with it. They had something to do with it. That's my opinion. And I also, Andy texted Candace, and Jody Sue bonified it, right? She bonified it. She said, yeah. Andy sent that text. It was supposed to go to somebody else. He wasn't texting Candace. He was texting somebody else. But Candace got it, and it said, it's done. Right? It's done. And then Chad Arnold shows up. And old Chad Arnold, goes out of Ben Hill Road from down at Fred's with Candace following him. Right? Candace is right behind him. She left her phone up on the hill on the back of Don Wells' truck. And she comes off the hill, goes down to Fred's place where Chad Arnold is, and she follows Chad Arnold right out of Ben Hill Road onto Beach Creek where Morrison Cemetery is. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we remember, I couldn't, I have so much content, I wasn't able to, bring all of the stuff to the table tonight, especially, but that I played out where Candace said black tote, where she said, these are brown boxes. You see this, right here, what Summer's laying on right there is brown boxes. Now, you guys know that I actually brought out just recently where Candace said, black tote. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. That ain't no black totes. That's brown boxes. She slipped up. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember me bringing that out, because I'm going to bring it out again as soon as I can, find it in all the content I got. I really looked for it tonight before I came in, but I wasn't able to come across it. But I'm going to look again tomorrow, and I'm going to bring it to the table where she says, I'm black tote. But I did play it out. I played it out, I think just recently, because, I just actually, while I was doing a bunch of research, caught on to it. It's something we hadn't caught on to before. And I had, and I brought it out. But yeah, absolutely. She said, no, that's brown boxes right there. That ain't no black boxes. That ain't no black tote. But, what she said allowed us to know that whatever Summer's in, whatever she's in, and I believe it's a black tote, is black. It's black. So, that she helped us out there. And that's what I think is down underneath Timothy Morson's grave, to be honest with you. That's my opinion. I do believe that Summer is down there due to the fact that they, took time to go over there and hide that grave, put bushes, all those big tree limbs and all that rubbish on top of it to try to hide it. And like I said, we almost didn't find it, right? Almost didn't find it. And then we have Chad Arnold up there stalking people while they're, trying to look for Timothy's grave. And as soon as it's found and pictures start to get took, he pulls out of there, and calls Andy Bernard. He calls Andy, telling Andy about, people being over there. And then Andy comes into our chat saying, I seen your little friend over at Morrison Cemetery, and then he was lying. He was lying, trying to at first say it was him. Then he finally came out with the truth that it was Chad, right? I'm not going to be stalking, PG up like Chad. And then he caught himself, right? So we know it was Chad. And why would they be stalking people that's over there, over there looking into this gravesite? Why would they try to hide the grave? Why was there flowers on the grave right at the time that Don and Candace was memorializing Summer? The end of April 2025, about the time they'd have been cutting all of her hair off. They're memorializing her. And with their little dollar store lights around the swing, they put flowers at Warriors, the horse pond, where Don B found them. And then, when we went up onto the gravesite, Morrison Cemetery, there, boom, is more flowers. So there's flowers at the horse pond, right, where we believe that Summer was unalived, right? June 15th, 2021. We don't believe she's with us on these milk jugs. I don't believe it. And so they leave flowers there. And then they go to the cemetery. They leave some flowers there, right? So it's like the place where she's unalived, they put flowers. The place where she's at now, they put flowers. And then they go up on the hill and they put the lights around her swing where she, where she loved to. Now, do you think maybe the lights around the swing was, they thought that putting lights around the swing would allow like Summer to be able to see the lights from over at the cemetery where, where they put the flowers and her final resting place? Because it's my opinion that she's down in there. So do you think those lights may have been, so, I mean, Don and Candace don't think right. So could they have thought that, we're going to put lights around the swing and, Summer will be able to see over here. She'll be able to see the lights from where, from where she's at over there. Do you think that's why they put them lights around that swing? I found it to be really weird why they would put lights over there around that swing. But, that would make perfect sense. That would make perfect sense. Believing that she would be able to see her favorite place, her swing, from the other hill over there, Morrison Cemetery. And Candace says, Summer always be with me. Well, right over on that hill, she would be, right? And then she, and then every time she comes out that door, have you ever noticed, every time she comes out that door, that's the direction they look in. She always, takes her phone and puts it in that direction where Morrison Cemetery would be. Take a look at the videos of hers. She's always got that, she's always pointing in that direction. And also, when Don Wells was talking to the news guy down at the bottom of the property, and because Candace wouldn't let him come up on the property, so he was doing the video down below. If you remember, Don, when he said, Summer won't ever be found, he looked, with this proud look on his face, like she ain't gonna ever be found. If you go back and you watch It looks like he stares straight over that way as well, at that cemetery, where the cemetery would be. Like it was behind the guy, and Don's looking, he's not looking at the guy, he's looking past him in that direction as well. There's a lot to this, a lot to this. And this, this should be taken very seriously, because you got number one suspects, saying she's in Morrison Cemetery. I'm not afraid to say it, right? And law enforcement is supposed to follow every tip, every lead. And this is, a very credible one coming from number one suspects. And it should be looked into. It should be followed. And, are they following it? Are they following it? I hear that oh, we're following up every lead, this and that. But, are they? Because I think if they followed that particular lead and they really would have, searched that particular lead, we might already know where Summer is, what happened to her, and this case would be solved. And I don't understand, if they're following it, why ain't they got themselves over there doing something? I mean, when you're following something, then people's able to see what you're following. And we're not seeing anything. We're hearing, but we're not seeing. And I'm tired of hearing. I want to see law enforcement do their job. Get on that lead and get your ass over there. And, I'm not saying, rule it in. I'm saying rule it out, because that's your job. But if she's there, you need to get her out. And you need to solve this case, right? That's what you need to do. That's your damn job. It's what you get paid for, right? That's what Ronnie Lawson gets paid for. That's what TBI gets paid for. That's what Pruitt, who don't seem to know how to do it, gets paid for. Right? Just saying. But as you can see, Summer's arm is pinned. It's pinned behind this milk jug. Now, if you watch Candace and Chris's video, acting like, oh, she was sleeping like her daddy, both arms behind her head. No. You're a liar, Candace. There's no way this baby ever had her arm behind her head, because this milk jug you got right here is pinning her arm in. You got a box right in front of this, holding in the milk jug, and the milk jug is holding her arm in place. There's no way she could have ever had it over her head. And you got this box here holding in the top milk jug. You got it. Look how far it's pushed under there to hold it in place. This is stagery. This is stagery at its finest, right? At its finest for people with their education. This is stagery at its finest. It's not the best. It's not the best. And anyone with half a brain could see that these milk jugs have been wedged in and is holding in this child. You can clearly see it. You can see part of her jacket behind that milk jug right there. That's wedged in, the bottom one. You can see her jacket holding her in. They pulled it to that side, holding her in. Right there. You can see right between the crack, right there's her jacket. That's got her arm pinned in. It's got part of her jacket pinned in to hold her in place. You can see her hood right there where, it's been pulled to pull up her head and lay it back to position it. Looky there. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And you can see a piece of her jacket, as back there pinning her in as well. Just saying. And you can see right there, you see how the milk jug is so pushed under that box to keep it in place. to keep it in place. Look, it's wedged in there. Look at that milk jug. It is wedged up under that box. And her head, look at the dent in that milk. And look at the blueness, the bruising on each side of her head. She's all packed in there. She's all packed, She's absolutely packed in there like a sardine, right? And you don't have to, you don't have to pack a sleeping kid in like that. But you would have to pack an unlived one in like that, right? You would, one that's limp, the body's limp. You'd have to do that. And look where somebody's pulled the hood. You can, if she just fell to sleep on her own, that hood would still be behind her head. It would be behind her head. You could tell someone used that hood to lift her head up and put it back down, lift her to adjust her. And that's because these are big people. These are big people, who have a hard time climbing into the back seat and, and adjusting her, differently. They can barely fit in the vehicle, I'm not being, I'm not being rude or anything like that. We all know that larger people, have a hard time, maneuvering themselves around inside of a vehicle. What I'm saying is, you take somebody that's 120, 130, 140 pounds. They could have got inside that vehicle back there and they could have, had her hood behind her and adjusted her and everything, plenty of room to work with her. But when you take somebody that's, on 200 pounds, 240 pounds, or maybe even more weight, trying to get they just can't, maneuver themselves around, in a cramped space like that. So they're doing the best they can by using the, the hood and all of the, all of what they do got to be able to get it done. That's all I'm saying, But look at, there's, and I think this bruising showing through, it's showing through makeup. Because I truly believe that she was dressed at Allison's home. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. But Hunter said she was on a pillow, wet, right? He said she was wet on a pillow against the driver's side door when they went through Walgreens, Sonic's, the store. So where did she get put in the outfit? The only other place would have been Allison's. And what happened to them cameras Allison had because someone came in and walked out of her house with the whole game machine while her mommy was there, right? Well, while her mommy or Grandbun or somebody was in the house. She said I think it was Grandbun was in the kitchen and somebody had came in, took a whole game machine out and she got cameras, right? She got video cameras and put them all over the place so that wouldn't happen again. Well, where's that camera footage from June 15, 2021? Because she don't seem to have no cameras after that. After June 15th, she had no cameras, right? Not one. Not one camera, did she let law enforcement look over. She had none. So, it is what it is. Cameras disappeared, right? The cameras disappeared at Jody Sue's. Cameras disappeared at Allison's place. Cameras were disappearing all over the place on June 15th. Ones that were there the days before were no longer there on the 15th and after, right? I find that very suspicious as well. So, and all of this stuff came out of their mouths. And I will find where Candace said, the black box or whatever, those are brown. So I'm going to find that. I'll bring that out. Try to look for it tomorrow. And I will be bringing back out where Hunter said, she was wet on that pillow. She was wet on the pillow. And, so where was she dressed? Where was she dressed at? Because obviously she wasn't dressed after going swimming like everybody, you know, wanted us to believe. She was dressed somewhere else. And if you look real close, on the right side of her bottom lip right there, the one, you know, down, where her head's down, it would be the right side of her mouth, the bottom lip. If you look real close, you can see lipstick. It looks like pink lipstick smeared below her lip right there. Take a good look, because it looks like lipstick is down there below her lip. So, you know, why put makeup on a child? If she's just sleeping, why would you need to put makeup on her lips and on her face? You know, I think law enforcement could have did a better job with this. I think they could have done a better job. I don't know who their forensic people are, right? But I think they could have done a better job with this one. Maybe they just didn't want to. Maybe there's something we don't know. I mean, let us remember that law enforcement went back to the Wells house when Candace was, you know, took off, when she took off to go hang with other people while Don was in jail, right? Don Wells was in jail for a while there. And Candace goes and hangs out with somebody else. And let us remember that law enforcement took this as an opportunity, right? They took it as an opportunity to go up there, kick in the door, and you know, supposedly went through the whole house and the safe in the basement, found the safe, went through it. What were they looking for? Was they looking for some videos like the boss, like the $5,000 video, you know, that the Wells sold about the boss, you know, doing bad stuff? Were they looking for videos as well? Who's on those videos? How many people were on $5,000 videos? You know, that's my question. That's my question. But what did they go in there looking for? They didn't seem to find it. But I got a feeling if they would have found it, this case might be solved. I don't know. You know, I'm starting to wonder, because this case sure doesn't seem that hard to solve to me. You know, all of this stuff's coming right out of the horse's mouths. And I'm going to tell you, if anybody else, if they had a recording of anyone else saying that they sold a $5,000 video of their boss doing, you know, that kind of stuff with their daughter, well, your ass would be, you would be in handcuffs. Law enforcement ain't going to say, hey, I would like you to come down here and talk to me. They're going to come to your house and they're going to say, you know, you're under arrest. We're taking you downtown. We got this recording, you know, and it's coming out your own mouth. We don't need anything else from you, right? We're prosecuting you. You're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because, you know, law enforcement looks at that as a mission to doing something very evil out of your own face, out of your own mouth. And you would get prosecuted on it, but not the Wells. Why is there a second set of rules for the Wells? Why is there a set of rules for them that isn't for everyone else? Right? That's what I want to know. Something seems mighty shady in this whole Summer Wells case. Just saying. It's you know, I hate to say it, but it seems like it's some type of movie. It seems like it's some type of movie where, you know, this child don't even exist. They're just trying to see everybody's reaction. Like they're just trying to see everyone's reaction to what they're doing. Right? Let's make up a big a big story about these, these kids getting taken off of this crazy looking hill, this scary hill where all these people are scary looking and living in scary places. And, and let's have the kid, these kids removed, and let's have all of these weird people saying all kinds of weird stuff and playing games and doing all of these things that no one else would get away with, but they are. And let's see what everybody's reaction is. I think that would be great for Hollywood. Right? And then, at the end of the movie, we're going to let them know that this child don't exist. It's an AI kid. It was just a big, bunch of BS to see how they all reacted. That's what it seems like. Because what they're letting these people get away with, anyone else would have been in jail already. And it makes it not seem real. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. Hey, berries and cream. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Super sticker. All right, girl. I appreciate that. God bless. God bless. I appreciate your support for the channel. But anyway, I played that out. I played that out for someone to listen to. Hey, Australia. Another super sticker. All right, girlfriend. I appreciate that. God bless you guys. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Absolutely. We so appreciate it. We do. Oh, member for 1 month. Hey, I appreciate that, Brianna's World. All right. God bless. God bless. I really appreciate that. You guys don't know how much, but I do. I appreciate everything you guys do for this channel. God bless you. Anyhow, the grand finale tonight. I told someone I would play, this stuff so they can, learn more about what's going on in this case and the updates and these people, how they were talking and doing and so forth and so on. And I will be playing more, a lot more, because there's more. There's a lot more. And we will be playing that too. I just want people to understand exactly what they're dealing with on Ben Hill Road. I want, something needs to be done. Something needs to be done for this baby. And I pray to God. I pray to God that's, that the right person steps in and does what needs to be done. We need to know Summer's in Morrison Cemetery. We need to know if she's underneath Timothy Morrison's grave. We need to know. That is a need to know. It's not a want, it's a need. She deserves the respect of finding out if she's there or not. And we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. But there's a lot more. This is just, this is just, a small taste of what's out there, where these people are concerned. And I will be playing a lot more, and I will be, notifying this person when each time I'm putting stuff out, I will be notifying them so they can, collect every bit of data needed to understand, what we're dealing with in the Summer Moon Utah Wells case. And hopefully, they can, pull strings in places we can't and do things that, do more than what we're getting done at this particular moment. Sometimes it helps to reach out to sources that go beyond all of this. So anyway, I'm sure that that person's watching, and I much appreciate it. I much appreciate it. And like I said, there is more to come on all of this. But tonight, I'm going to do the grand finale up out of here, and that's over Fred Hill. Over Fred Hill. Fred Hill, you know, said that, told on Ziggy's, please put a 1 in the chat if you remember Fred Hill, which is, you know, another suspect in the Summer Moon Utah Wells case, right? He's another suspect. And so is Andy Bernard, Jody Sue. All these people are suspects. But, and Candace, Don, and Grandis, those are number 1 suspects right there. You know, that ain't my opinion. That's the damn truth. That's the truth. You know, I'm not even going to say my opinion because that's the truth. Ronnie Lawson said they all day backsides are suspects. And, you know, he said no sign of an abduction. No sign of no abductions. And Pruitt came out and said, we did that extra deep dive search. And we believe if she wandered off and she was out there, we would have found her or found signs that, you know, found signs she was out there. And we found nothing. So, you know, pretty much they don't believe she wandered off as well. That's what Pruitt was pretty much telling us. And that's, you know, what Ronnie Lawson, you know, was saying about no abduction, no wandering off. You know, that's pretty much off the table, in my opinion, because of what law enforcement said. Not what I said, they said. And I got to listen to them, right? I got to listen to them. And that's exactly what they said. So, you know, that just leaves foul play. And we know foul play means, you know, the people right there at the residence. Don, Candace, and Grandis. You know, that's who they're looking at. So it is what it is. And I always like, you know, to listen to law enforcement. And I always like to understand what they're saying. And from what I heard with my ears, it's all foul play, right? And they just need, and from what, you know, the lady said from TBI or whatever she's at, she said, we just need a little piece. Just, you know, they're just waiting for this one piece. Small. That's it. Just small. Could that be the videos? That small piece be finding the videos so they could wrap the case up and do what needs to be done? I don't know. I often wonder, you guys. Just saying. Something strange and weird about this case. Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you, no doubt in my mind, and it's very much my opinion. And, you know, I'm not going to come out here and, you know, sugarcoat anything in the eyes of my God. I got to say what I really feel, what I really think. And I'm going to tell you what, and who would I, why would I lie to anyone and defy my God? I'm not going to defy my God. I love my God. And I'm not going to defy him by putting out some BS that I don't truly believe, you know, because of any reason. I'm going to put out the truth. And the truth is, it's my opinion that Candace, Don, and Grandis are guilty as all freaking get out. I believe they're guilty as hell. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. Now, I don't know exactly what happened this summer. I got my suspicions. I don't know exactly what happened, but I suspect with all of these $5,000 videos and Don showering with her and all of this weird stuff going on. You know, Jody Sue said, yeah, he's showering with her. True. Allison's daughter said, yeah, he was showering with her. He wasn't just showering with her, he was doing worse than that, taking her to the basement. You know, we got people, witnesses, and these witnesses are all in different corners, but they're all witnesses to the same thing. We got the 911 call, right? He's not going after no one but his daughter because she got took out of the shower where he wanted her to be with him. So, you know, and if he's allowing all of this stuff to go on, right? He's doing it and he's allowing it to happen, then probably something very wrong went wrong. Because Summer was looking really sick right before she disappeared. She was looking real bad. And these people are not going to prison for nobody. And if that means having to destroy Summer to keep their asses from going to jail, they're going to do it. These are evil. You seen how evil they was. You heard Candace and Don laughing as they talked about this man and the video they sold. And anybody else would be in jail for coming out here saying something like that. They'd be handcuffed and took to jail. You wouldn't have got out of that one. You'd have needed an attorney. You would have needed a lawyer after saying that. And the lawyer would have told you, what the hell was you thinking? What the hell was you thinking? It wasn't like somebody said you said it. It came out your own mouth. How much can I help you here? I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you or not. After this, I mean, that's your own voice on recording. You don't play like that, especially when you got this particular child missing. You don't play like that. But nothing was done to them. Ask yourself why. Because I don't know. I don't know. I just know I want Summer found. I want her brought home. And I want justice served for her. That's all I do know. And I know I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep praying until it's done. Because I serve a big God, a mighty God, a powerful God. And I know my God can move mountains. I know he can uproot trees. And I know if I have faith in him, he can find her, bring her home, and justice will be served on her behalf. So I'm going to keep my faith and I'm going to keep praying. And I'm going to keep understanding that God works on his time, not mine. And he's hearing every prayer we put out. And he will answer at some point. I just got to be patient. And I am. I'm a very patient person. So I'll keep being patient. But tonight, I wanted to let you know, Fred Hill said on Ziggy's that Cotton had no money, that he had no money. Put a one in the chat if you remember him. Just recently, he was on Ziggy saying, oh, Cotton didn't have no money. You know, yeah. And he was at my house. No, not the day before. The day before they found him. It was like the day before that, like a couple of days before they found him. Put a one in the chat if you just heard him telling all that BS on Ziggy's. Hey, and I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Brooks, absolutely. We're all praying, girlfriend, and I know God's hearing us, and he'll answer at some point. He will answer. Yeah, he was just over there, you know, talking all this stuff. And, you know, it's all lies. It's all lies, Fred. Why why you gotta lie? You don't have to lie to kick it. You know, you can tell the truth. You can tell the truth. Or can you? Or can you? You know, maybe you can't. I don't know. you know, but I do know you're lying about Cotton having the money. I do know you're lying about, you know, everything. And I'm playing it out, Fred, because I know you and Ziggy's watching. And I'm going to play it out. I'm going to play it right out of the horse's mouth, Fred, which is your mouth. Just like I just played out of Andy's mouth and Jody Sue's mouth and Don's mouth and Candace's mouth. Out of all of these mouths, I'm going to play it out of your mouth. And come tomorrow night, I'm going to play more out of Candace's mouth. How she's got to put the boys aside. And she's got to put, you know, or put Summer aside to take care of the boys because the boys are still here. They're still alive. Oh, well, that's a mission that Summer's not. Right out of her own mouth, right, Fred? Right? Yeah, I'm bringing it all to the table. I'm going to bring Hunter talking about the pillow. I'm bringing that. I'm bringing it all to the table. Because I got someone listening. And hopefully that someone helps me to get Summer found, brought home, and justice served. I'll have a whole bunch of people listening by the time it's said and done. And I'm going to tell you, somebody's going to be right. It's going to be hit the right ears, Fred. It's going to hit the right ears. And Summer will be the top priority. And things will get done. Trust and believe that. Now, did Don Wells, Don Wells is, and Candace both, they're adamantly saying, we don't know Cotton Simpson. We don't know this guy. We ain't never seen this guy. We know nothing about this guy. Is that true?
Well, I do know that Cotton, the last time I spoke to him, he was talking about being up at 110 the day Summer went missing. And he's talking about sleeping with mother and daughter. He didn't say whether it was Candace and Grandis or Summer and Candace.
Right.
That's what kind of confused me, you know. He didn't specifically say exactly which one.
Do you remember that right after Summer's disappearance that Don and Candace and all of them, they was acting really... Grandis ran the hell out of there. Andy Bernard ran the hell out of there.
Well, see, the law enforcement made Grandis leave because she's not allowed around children, period.
Well,
I do know that.
There was no children. They took the boys and Summer was missing. There was no children. So...
Well, she didn't come. See, she left and then come back after the boys was took.
Right. She took off. Actually, Grandis took the hell out of there after the boys were taken. And Andy Bernard, I don't know which one of them got out of there the fastest because Grandis went first. Andy went right after Grandis. Jody Sue went right after Andy. And the funny thing is right there after Cotton Simpson came up unalived, Cotton Simpson had quite a bit of money on him. He had just barely done... Was he at your house the day?
Yeah.
He was there
the day before.
The day before he ended up? Bingo. It was the evening before, the night before. He was found in the morning. Right? Inside of the park. He was found, the park right behind his house. He's found inside of this place the very next morning by some joggers, right? Laurel Run. He's found inside Laurel Run the very next morning by some joggers. And listen to this. Listen to this, you guys. And this is out of your own mouth, Fred. Out of your own mouth. Dead or the very day.
The day before.
He was at your home.
Yeah.
But he wasn't.
The evening before.
He wasn't.
Not the day that they found him. No, I didn't know nothing about they even finding him. And Marvin Simpson had told me that they had found him. That he told me that Betty Jo Simpson had called him and told him that they had found.
Now remember the name Marvin Simpson and Betty Jo Simpson. Remember these names. Remember exactly. Remember Marvin. Please do.
Cotton and stuff, and that he had a big gash in his back of his head and stuff. That's why they give me a polygraph, because they hadn't released that he had a gash in the back of his head. And the only reason I knew is because she had told Marvin, and Marvin had told me. Right. And that's the only reason I knew, you know.
Right. Now, you guys, this is where it gets good. This is where it gets real good. Please, pop your popcorn, get your drink, kick back, because this is the part you want to hear, baby. Right here is what you want to hear, right? Get comfortable, you guys, and take a listen. You better sit down, Ziggy. Pacing ain't going to be what you want to do right now. Right? Hold on, I'm trying to find out exactly when Cotton passed away.
Best I remember, it was, I want to say February the 14th or something. Of 2023, maybe.
Right there. Remember I told you about the dates? I had to go and look. I had to pull up his obituary in order to look. Because you know what? I ain't got nothing to do with it, right? I have nothing to do with Cotton Simpson. But Fred, he knew the date right off the top of his head, the same way Andy Bernard knew exactly when Timothy Morrison passed away, exactly when he was buried, and obviously exactly when they, dug the hole over there, right? Because he's like, well, he's died on the 11th, buried on the 18th. Do you think they dug that on the 15th? No, they would have dug that grave, so he already knew it was dug as well. He knew it wasn't dug on the 15th. It was already dug on the 15th. And he told you that in a roundabout way, but you know what? He still told us, right? It was dug before that. So there you go. Obviously on the 14th, that grave was dug.
I'm not for sure. Seemed like that's what date I remember somebody saying. I'm not for sure.
February the 14th, 2023. Exactly. That was me. I was looking up the obituary. You seen it took me a second. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're correct. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But see, Cotton used to work at Warriors Path up there as a maintenance before, a few years before.
Oh, sit down, Ziggy. It's getting better. This is grand finale now, sweetie. This is the grand finale. And, I know I'm talking during this, but I'm going to tell you what. We're going to listen to it again without PG talking, Ziggy. All right. We're going to listen to it again without my interruptions. You know why? So that all the other creators that want it, feel free to take it. Feel free to play it. Feel free to have it. Because I'm tired of liars.
Somewhere went missing and stuff.
And he came out on disability.
Yeah.
And he was getting quite a bit of money. He had been in jail for 6 months. And that money had piled up in his bank account, which would have come to around $18,000. what he would have had in his bank. And when he was at your house, and then the following morning he was found dead.
The next day, sometime the next day, I don't know what time.
He was found dead.
They said some hikers had found him or something.
Right, the next morning. And Don and Candace, he said he was up there. Now, could he have left your house and stopped by the Wells house?
No, because me and Marvin actually had followed him and stuff to the top of the mountain, and we turned around that top of the mountain at the Mountain View at the stop sign,
right.
Because when he was at my house, he was wanting to buy a boat and stuff, and I was in partners with somebody else on the boat, and I told him I couldn't really price it right then. I had to get with them and stuff to take and find out what they wanted for their part, you know. Right. And then he got to talking about he was worried about having money and stuff on him. And I don't know why he was talking about worried about getting robbed or whatever. But me and Marvin actually followed him we was trying to make sure he made it home or whatever. But once he got to the top of the mountain, instead of turning left to go to his house,
me and Marvin followed him, and he did have money. He did. Hey, Phoebe. Hey, girlfriend, I appreciate that, and I love you too. You know it. You know it. And tell your sweet little daughter that PG said hello and sending much, much love to her. God bless you guys. And yes, absolutely. Member for 13 months, girl. 13 months. I appreciate it. God knows I do. But anyhow, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You heard him out of his own mouth. He said that Cotton didn't have no money. Did you hear him say Cotton had money? He said Cotton had money. He didn't know why Cotton was talking about, afraid he's going to get robbed. But Fred and good old Marvin, right? Good old Marvin followed him home, followed him that day. And it seems to me like he went to the cemetery. It seems to me like he went to see his mother. He went to the cemetery to see his mom. He's going to, stop by. That's what he does. He just stops, and sometimes just talks to his mother, and being at Fred's house, we know he was probably, hooked up on some good illegal substances, right? And he was going up there. He's going to, probably stop at the cemetery, talk with his mom, and then, go on home, go on to his house. But you know what? I think he had a couple people behind him. You heard Fred say he followed him. Now, Fred just recently on Ziggy's tried to say that Cotton had no money. He had no money. And right here, you heard him say, yeah. And he was worried about the amount of money he had because he was wanting us to follow him and make sure he got over there safe. Yeah. Sure,
he turns right and goes towards Betty Joe's, because Betty Joe lives on that same, right past where the cemetery and stuff, where they found his vehicle.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe he's going over there or something to hang out, because he does go over there and hang out with them a lot.
Right. So you didn't follow him no further. You guys just went back to the house.
Yeah.
And the next morning he was found over there dead.
Yeah, I didn't find out till like 4 o'clock or something the next day. I think it was around 4 o'clock that Marvin had come and had mentioned it.
Marvin had come and mentioned it at 4 o'clock the next day. Sounds pretty shady to me. Sounds very shady to me. Why is Fred lying? Why is Fred lying? Why is he lying? Why did he tell everybody Cotton has no money when Cotton did? You know? Absolutely, Molly. Absolutely. I heard that they were smoking Cotton cigarettes too. I heard that. I heard that by a couple of people that knew Cotton, and they knew Fred and Laura. And they said that Cotton had a whole bunch of cigarettes that, in in the seat next to him when he went to Fred's that day. And when his car was found, no cigarettes. And then these people said, these two particular people supposedly went up there to Fred's house and seen Fred and Laura just happened to be smoking the same brand of cigarettes as Cotton's. Ain't that funny? Ain't that funny? Yeah. And I heard his sister found money, right? I heard also that his sister found money at the mother's house and turned it in to law enforcement, thinking that it probably belonged to Cotton Simpson. That's also what I've heard as well, right? But you heard him. You heard him say that Cotton did have money when he was trying to convince everybody just within the week or so, just this past week or so. He was on Ziggy's talking about, Cotton having no money, right? No money, he says. Oh, Cotton didn't have no money on him or anything like that. Yeah. He did. He did. I don't think you can spend $18,000 on my rent. I don't think you're going to spend $18,000. He had 6 months worth of checks build up in the bank, which comes to about 18 grand. Okay. I don't think Fred had that much, stuff to sell, if you ask me. And you heard Fred say that, about the boat. You heard him talk about, he was wanting to buy in on a boat. I think that's BS. I don't think Fred knew anybody wanting to buy a boat or even had a boat or even thinking about a boat, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But I'm going to play it for you again because I want everyone to understand this. Yes, this was a one-on-one conversation between me and Fred. Ziggy can say whatever she wants to say. But when I talk to Fred about Summer and Cotton's case and other things going on in and around the hill that could help us to understand, these people inside there a little better and get a more understanding, of what the hell really was happening and going down inside this place, right? With all these people. Too many people were coming up, unalived around Summer's case. I mean, we had one guy found, right? The cousin to Marlena and them, who was found, unalived. We had Marlena's dad, which came up unalived as well, after Don supposedly told him about, how he had to, the summer had to be, basically unalived for his sins. you know, we have a lot of people, you know, the young girl that was trying, you know, that tried to take another child to the grandparents because of some stuff going on that she knew about. She ends up, you know, unalived as well. And then we have, you know, just so many. Cotton comes up unalived after he tells his family that, you know, stuff about Fred and Summer's case. And then you have Leslie, who comes up, you know, unalived. You got Allison, who came up unalived. You got all of these people just coming up unalived, right? Molly, you are girlfriend, you're a trip. For real. You're funny. You're absolutely funny. I think Fred spent Roy Cotton's 18 on hair products to keep his hair so gorgeous, right? Molly is silly. That's funny though. That's funny. And in the way his hair looks, I might believe it. I might believe that one. But anyhow, Joe Dirt, right? But you heard it out of his mouth. This wasn't my mouth. This was his mouth. And but you know, why does he keep lying? Why didn't he just tell everybody what he told me? Why didn't he just tell all of you what he told me? Why is he changing up the story? Why is he changing it up now that poor old Rory didn't have $1? Rory had a ton of money, and Fred knows it. Don Wells, Don Wells is, and Candace both, they're adamantly saying, if he's trying to convince you guys that Roy had no money, then, you know, and to me, this is my opinion, but if I'm trying to convince somebody, you know, that this guy had no money, it sounds to me like, you know, I'm feeling guilty. It sounds to me like I'm feeling guilty, right? I'm trying to send all the dogs down, you know, down a dark alley, you know, sniffing for nothing. I'm trying to send everybody down a dark alley so that they don't get, you know, they don't get on the, you know, in the big lighted up one that's, you know, going to shine it, the big light right down on my ass. And that's what it sounds like, you know, Fred's doing. It sounds like Fred, you know, once he figures that, you know, oh, he didn't have no money. So, you know, what reason would we have to be doing anything to him, you know, make yourself, why do you feel that you need to convince all these people like that if you had nothing to do with it? I mean, if I'm innocent, you know, I'm going to be like, yeah, you know, the dude had, you know, he had a pretty good size, you know, knot in his pocket. Hell yeah. You know, he had all kinds of, you know, all kinds of cigarettes. It looked to me like he was doing pretty good, like he's up on his game. You know, he looked like he's doing good for himself. Can't say he didn't. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to change my story because I ain't got no reason to unless I did something wrong. And if I did something wrong, then, you know, you know, I didn't see no money, right? I didn't see no money. I didn't see nothing. I don't know if he had money or not. I'm going to try to convince people, you know, shoot, I didn't have nothing to do with it. I ain't know nothing about no money. You know how it is. You guys know how it is. Now, did Don Wells, Don Wells is, and Candace both, they're adamantly saying, we don't know Cotton Simpson. We don't know this guy. We ain't never seen this guy. We know nothing about this guy. Is that true?
Well, I do know that Cotton, the last time I spoke to him, he was talking about being up at 110 the day someone went missing.
Hold that thought, you guys. Hold that thought.
This crazy. This crazy. I don't want to call people out their names. No, I don't like to do that. I don't do that stuff. This person has no right to go on another person's panel and say that I had anything to do with this guy that I have never met, didn't even know his name until just recently, didn't know where he even come from. It's just it's got me so riled that I talked to you this morning. You know how I feel. I was controlling myself. I was in tears. It's ridiculous. It's bullcrap. And another thing I'd like to know is why would Fred insert himself into this missing child, my daughter, my Summer? Why? All these people, why are they inserting themselves in this? Do they all have something to do with it? I mean, because in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to insert yourself in my daughter missing, but yeah, you're going to call like you had nothing to do with it. So why are you putting yourself there? And I know for a given fact that, not saying names, but I know for a fact that woman is only wanting cash so she can get her next hit. Because that's how they are. I don't know, I'm just so over it.
Now, do you see how upset Candace sounded there? Why are they saying I know Cotton Simpson when I don't? Why is, Laura inserting herself in, into this? Why is Fred inserting himself into this? And then she wants to, try to turn the table, as in, did they have something to do with, my daughter, kind of stuff, right? And she doesn't want to talk about, this guy being deceased or what happened to this guy or anything like that. She's just wanting to turn the table on them and away from herself again, away from herself, because that's what her and Dawn does best, right? Is to try to put other people under the bus and to take the focus off of them. And then she sits there, and is upset, really what's upsetting her as Laura getting, some super chats and or some monies, as in Cash App. She's jealous of Laura's Cash App that's going up, and people giving Laura a little bit of money, because at that time Laura was dealing with the C word, right? She was dealing with the C word, and she was trying to get to her doctors and and get medications and stuff to help her. And Fred had left her. He left her high and dry for Ziggy, and she was going through a lot of stuff and needing to, take taxis and pay people to get to and fro. And she was very, she was looking really bad and really sick at the time. And, and she didn't really have a lot of food and stuff. So, people were, being kind and caring and supporting her, to get some food and to get a few things. And I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that at all. Nobody gave her anything to get, more illegal substances. People were given to her because, she opened her camera up and you could tell she's really bad off, right? She's really bad off. She's really sick. And people were helping her to, try to get the vitamins and the nutrition and the stuff she needed, to fight off what she was going through at the time. And, and she was making her appointments. She was getting her, radiation and whatever needed for her condition at that time. And Candace, here she is, instead of praying for this girl, who has been her neighbor for a long time and looking so sick and bad off, instead of, you know, praying for her. Candace is, you know, sitting there wanting to, you know, go on the attack, you know, and denying that she knows Cotton. I'm going to tell you, if Fred Hill knew Cotton, then Candace and Donald and Grandis knew Cotton. They wasn't no man. There was no man came inside of Ben Hill Road that Grandis and Candace did not smell from 1,000 miles away, right? They could smell people from 1,000 miles away. Candace actually, her and Allison said that Candace smelled some guy 1,000 miles away and went and picked him up and brought him back to the hill. Remember that? A homeless guy. She smelled him 1,000 miles away and went and got him and brought him back to the hill and had him up there when Don got home. And Don wasn't upset. Don wasn't upset at all. Matter of fact, Don welcomed the guy. They fed the guy. They made friends with the guy because this is what they do. This is what they do, right? They reach out to all of these people who, you know, are the same likes as their self. You know, they like the people that's the same likes as their self. Who do you know? Who do you know that we can know, you know, to get some self-gain in what we want to gain, right? And Cotton worked. Cotton worked right there at, you know, the horse pond where Candace and Grandis and them were always going. They went there damn near daily through the summer. And, you know, probably a lot throughout the rest of the year as well. And Cotton worked there. So there's no way Candace could sit there and say, I didn't know this guy. You know, they know everybody. Like everybody knows everybody. You know, they know Chad Arnold, they know Cotton, they know Fred, they know Andy, they know all of these people. They know Marlena's dad. Don and Candace Wells do nothing but socialize with, you know, all the people who, you know, you shouldn't socialize with, right? I mean, if I seen Don and Candace socializing with someone, though, I would know these are the people to stay away from, right? The only thing you can say about these type of people is they let you know who you don't want to socialize with. You take pictures, you take names, and you make sure that if they ever come around, you turn them away instead of turning them in, right? You don't turn them into your house. You turn them away from your house. You say, you know, get your tail the hell out of here. I already know you. I already got a picture that says stay the hell away from this person. Done seen them at the wrong place, right? At the right time. And the reason it's the right time is because I was able to be there and see you and know I don't want you around me now, right? These people are disgusting. But Candace sit there and, you know, goes on the attack and turns the table. This wasn't about Summer. This was about Cotton Simpson. But she turns it, you know, to her daughter's case to try to, you know, get the focus off of her and on to Fred and Laura. Now, I'm not saying Fred and Laura didn't have a hand in whatever went down with Summer Moon Utah Wells. I think all of them dirtballs inside Ben Hill Road knows what the hell was going on in there. I think they all know what was happening inside of Ben Hill Road. You heard Fred say, you know, Cotton came to my house. He said he'd been up there getting down with a mom and daughter. I don't know which mom and daughter he's talking about. Well, you heard Jody Sue say, go ask Andy what he was given Candace to sedate not just Summer, but other little girls to be touched, right? To be touched. So Fred knew what was going on up there. He knew what he same as told you when he made that statement. He knew everybody knew what was going on up there. Why didn't anybody help this little girl? Why didn't anybody help the other little girls? Why didn't anyone do something righteous? How could everybody inside this place be so evil? How could everybody inside this place and the people coming in, how can they be so evil? I don't know. I don't know. I ain't never seen that many evil people, I ain't never seen that many evil people gathered together. Unless it's like a witches gathering or something, right? When you see a bunch of witches all gather up, and a bunch of Satanist people, they got a big old group of people, all gathered around doing some weird stuff. But other than that, you don't really, see tons of evil people piling up together like they are inside Ben Hill Road. I used to think that people, out at the clubs and stuff, all them thugs and everything, I used to think that they were evil. I'm going to tell you, they ain't half as evil as these people up there. I mean, they might have been, doing some bad stuff, having arguments and altercations with, other people their age and stuff like that, other young adults, middle-aged adults, whatever. But they wasn't none of them gathering up with little 5-year-old children in the mix, right? There wasn't no 5-year-old babies in the mix of all of this. I ain't never heard of they wasn't nobody supplying somebody with, something to sedate little children so they can be touched. I'm going to tell you, this is a special kind of evil right here, you guys. And there's probably a special place in hell for people like that. I don't, I think there's some evil stuff you can come back from, right? You can come back from, meaning you can come back, get forgiveness. But I think there's some stuff, there's some stuff. I believe there's some sins you cannot come back from. Just saying, I think some sins are just too evil, right? Man, they're an abomination in the sight of God. There ain't no coming back from that. Ain't no coming back from abominations.
All these people that want to be so involved in all this. If you want to be so involved, why don't you help find her instead of putting yourself, oh, I know where she is.
Why don't you help find her? Well, Candace, I think that there was people willing to come up on Ben Hill Road that would have covered every mother freaking inch of your property just by standing hip to hip. Nobody would have had to walk nowhere. You had a group of people big enough to come up there, and they would have been out on Beach Creek Road, out on Ben Hill Road, and they would have been standing hip to hip all the way up on that hill where you guys were staying. That's how many people, tons of people, thousands of people offered to come up there and bring people with them and search. They could have stood hip to hip over every inch of that property, all 11 point whatever acres. It would have looked like a freaking concert going down. right? It would have looked like Woodstock all over again. But you said no. You said the higher ups ain't gonna let nobody come around there. And nobody better not come around there. So what the hell you talking about? Come and find her. Shut your face. Just shut your face. Quit talking out both sides of your mouth. Everybody knows that what you say is BS as well, right? That ain't my opinion. That's the truth. That's the truth. You guys you didn't even want law enforcement up there. That's why right from the word go, you and Candace and Don wanted to push abduction. You guys knew she didn't wander off, right? I could have told them that she didn't wander off. But if you knew what she didn't do, then you must have known what happened. If you know where your daughter isn't, then you must have knew where she was. So you're telling them how she didn't wander off. I would have had you guys downtown right then and there. I'd have put you in handcuffs and I'd have let you know that if you're telling me where your daughter isn't, then you must know where she is. So you guys are going downtown. We're going to talk about this. I don't know why law enforcement did not snatch on to all the stuff they had in order to solve up this case way early on. I've got to wonder about this, because that's sure in the hell what I would have done. You guys wanted to push abduction because you didn't want law enforcement all over that property. You didn't want them all around you. And that's why you were inside the house hiding from law enforcement instead of being outside like a real mother would have, going into those woods, or at least standing outside of those woods. If law enforcement wouldn't let you in there, then a real mother would have been standing there with a flashlight saying, what's going on? What's going on? Have you found her? Have you found her? She would have been going down, up and down that road, seeing if they found her daughter yet. Okay, I can't go in there, but boy, I'm going to run the perimeter and I'm going to see what's going on because I want my child found. And I wouldn't have been telling people that she ain't in there, because if my daughter's really missing, I wouldn't have knew if she was or not. And I sure would have been praying she was, so she could be found. But you weren't doing that, was you? You were hiding that ass up in the house, away from law enforcement, because you felt that they could read your mind, that they could just look at you and tell you're guilty as hell, the way criminals think. That's the way criminals think. Law enforcement, when you're a criminal and you do evil stuff, law enforcement's presence makes your knees knock, your hands shake, and your mother freaking heart speed up and sweat start coming off your forehead. Because you know, or you think you know exactly what they're thinking. You think they know everything already. When they knock on the door, you think they already know everything. Everything. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is with criminals. You always know if you're riding with a criminal. Because if you're riding with a criminal, you know, and a law enforcement happens to be behind you, they're like, you know, fasten your seatbelt, straighten up, don't be moving. What? What do you mean fasten up? Set straight, don't be moving. What the hell you so paranoid about, dude? Right? Why do you got such paranoia going on? They got that paranoid shit going on because they criminals. They think that cop already smelled their criminal ass from where he was sitting. And they're going about to, you know, and they think that any second it's going to be whoop, whoop, pull over. And, you know, it's crazy. You don't even want to be in the car with people like that because, you know, all that bad juju be making you nervous. You're like, pull over, dude. Let me just walk. I don't even want to be in the presence of you. Right? What have you done? What is your problem? You know, I don't care if law enforcement follows me or not. Get behind me, follow me. It makes me feel safer. You know, I got law enforcement behind me. Ain't nobody gonna be bothering me. Keep following me. Follow me all the way home. And then stop and watch me get in my house. I appreciate it. Right? Pull me over. I ain't got nothing, you know, I ain't got nothing to hide. Right? I got a license. I got insurance. I got everything I need. Right? Law enforcement pulls me over. I just figured they can help me. And they usually do. You got a tail light out. Did you know that? Need to get that fixed. Oh, didn't know. Good. That's good to know. Right? Thank you, Mr. Officer. Wish I had a gift card in my car that I could give you for helping me out. But you know, I'm a God-fearing, law-abiding, upstanding citizen. I'm not afraid of law enforcement. And everybody should be that way. But they're not. Especially people like this right here. Right? This right here. They get nervous. They get very nervous. But you heard her. You heard the BS coming out of her face. In my opinion, they're guilty as hell. My opinion, Fred Hill knows exactly what happened. Candace and Candace know exactly what happened. And in my opinion, and this is my opinion, Andy and Jody Sue know what happened too. I mean, I heard the phone call between Jody Sue and Candace, right? Jody Sue wanting her share of everything Candace was taking in. But Jody Sue wasn't giving Candace nothing. And I asked Candace, is she giving you half of everything she's getting? No. Then why the hell are you giving her anything? Right? Jody Sue's money got cut off. Jody Sue don't like PG because I got her money cut the hell off. Right? She shouldn't have been getting no money to begin with. But she was. Why? Because of that big lion scream. Right? That was 1 hour too early. It needed to be an hour later. And she wasn't willing to change it because nobody believed it the first time. And that's why. These people are all in cahoots. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. But Fred, I'm going to play you again. And this time, I'm going to be quiet. Yeah, I know how to do that. I can do the one thing that even men do, right? I can do the one thing that men do, and that's shut up long enough to listen. Fred should have known that when I was shutting up to hear what he had to say here that I could play out, right? Yeah, I'm patient. So we're going to hear you one more time, Fred, tell that big lie and tell everybody how you followed Cotton Simpson the very night before he was found, passed away in the morning. And you just happen to know that he had a big old gash when nobody else did. Right? Ain't that a coincidence? Now, did Don Wells, Don Wells is, and Candace both, they're adamantly saying, we don't know Cotton Simpson. We don't know this guy. We ain't never seen this guy. We know nothing about this guy. Is that true?
Well, I do know that Cotton, the last time I spoke to him, he was talking about being up at 110 the day someone went missing. And he's talking about sleeping with mother and daughter. He didn't say whether it was Candace and Candace or Summer and Candace.
Right.
That's what
Now,
kind of confused me, he didn't specifically say exactly which one.
do you remember that right after Summer's disappearance that Don and Candace and all of them, they was acting really... Grandis ran the hell out of there. Andy Bernard ran the hell out of there.
Well, see, the law enforcement made Grandis leave because she's not allowed around children, period.
Well,
I do know that.
There was no children. They took the boys and Summer was missing. There was no children. So...
Well, she didn't come. See, she left and then come back after the boys was took.
Right. She took off. Actually, Grandis took the hell out of there after the boys were taken. And Andy Bernard, I don't know which one of them got out of there the fastest because Grandis went first. Andy went right after Grandis. Jody Sue went right after Andy. And the funny thing is right there after Cotton Simpson came up unalived, Cotton Simpson had quite a bit of money on him. He had just barely done... Was he at your house the day?
Yeah.
He was there
the day before.
The day before he ended up dead, or the very day?
The day before.
He was at your home.
Yeah.
But he wasn't...
The evening before.
He wasn't...
Not the day that they found him. No, I didn't know nothing about they even found him. And Marvin Simpson had told me that they had found him. That he told me that Betty Jo Simpson had called him and told him that they had found cotton and stuff, and that he had a big gash in his back of his head and stuff. That's why they give me a polygraph, because they hadn't released that he had a gash in the back of his head. And the only reason I knew is because she had told Marvin and Marvin had told me. Right. And that's the only reason I knew,
Right. And hold on, I'm trying to find out exactly when Cotton passed away.
Best I remember, it was, I want to say February the 14th or something. Of 2023, maybe. I'm not for sure. Seemed like that's what date I remember somebody saying. I'm not for sure.
February the 14th, 2023, exactly.
But see, Cotton used to work at Warriors Path up there as a maintenance before, a few years before Summer went missing and stuff.
And he came out on disability.
Yeah.
And he was getting quite a bit of money. He had been in jail for 6 months, and that money had piled up in his bank account, which would have come to around $18,000. It's what he would have had in his bank. And when he was at your house, and then the following morning he was found dead?
The next day, sometime the next day, I don't know what time.
He was found dead.
They said some hikers had found him or something.
Right, the next morning. And Don and Candace, he said he was up there. Now, could he have left your house and stopped by the Wells house?
No, because me and Marvin actually had followed him and stuff to the top of the mountain, and we turned around that top of the mountain at the Mountain View at the stop sign, because when he was at my house, he was wanting to buy a boat and stuff, and I was in partners with somebody else on the boat, and I told him I couldn't really price it right then. I had to get with them and stuff to take and find out what they wanted for their part, Right. And then he got to talking about he was worried about having money and stuff on him. And I don't know why he was talking about worried about getting robbed or whatever. But me and Marvin actually followed him we was trying to make sure he made it home or whatever, but once he got to the top of the mountain, instead of turning left to go to his house, he turns right and goes towards Betty Joe's, because Betty Joe lives on that same, right past where the cemetery and stuff, where they found his vehicle.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe he's going over there or something to hang out, because he does go over there and hang out with them a lot.
Right. So you didn't follow him no further. You guys just went back to the house.
Yeah.
And the next morning he was found over there dead.
Yeah, I didn't find out till like 4 o'clock or something the next day. I think it was around 4 o'clock that Marvin had come and had mentioned it.
There you go. There you go, you guys. Played out in full. Played out in full. Right out of Fred's own mouth. Cotton did have money. Cotton was worried. They followed him, talking about a fishing boat. Sounds very suspicious. Like a bunch of BS if you ask me about the fishing boat. I think Cotton was paying for something, but it wasn't no fishing boat. I think he was, paying for something. I think Fred saw, that wad of money, and, that was Cotton's mistake. You don't go around people like Fred Hill, no matter how long you've been going around somebody like Fred Hill. You don't go around them with a wad of money. You don't ever let anybody see a wad of money on you. Smart people, smart humans, only carry what they're going to need, like a couple of bucks. Matter of fact, you're better off. You're better off always being, a couple of dollars short than a couple of dollars over. Right? You got to make these people like Fred Hill, you got to make them believe that they got everything that you just had, and that you still owe them a couple of dollars because you were short and couldn't pay for it all at that particular time. Right? That's what you got to lead these people to believe. If because I don't care how long you know them, you can't trust them. You cannot trust them. Think smarter instead of working harder, right? That's what I got to say. But a lot of people don't know how to think smart. They don't know how to save their own, their own skin. And that's a shame. That's a shame, just because you got it, don't flaunt it. Don't, you don't ever let nobody know how good you're doing. Because, people don't like to see you doing good. People like to, feel like they're above you. So let them believe what they like to feel, right? Always let them believe what they like to feel, and you'll be safer. You'll be a lot safer if you always let people believe they are above you. The only ones that need to know the truth is you and God. That's it. That's what, what smart people do, especially if they're in a cesspool of people like this, right? If they're trying to survive in a cesspool of people like this, you better always let these kind of people think that they're above you. Don't ever let them get the feeling they're below you. Because they don't like looking up. They like looking down. Just how it is. How it is. I talked to Cotton's ex-wife, who has a daughter by him. And she told me that Cotton's money and cigarettes were gone. They wouldn't even have known he had all of those cigarettes if a couple people, witnesses, wouldn't have seen him before he went to Fred's. And they seen all the cigarettes on his seat and asked him, where'd those come from? Why are you doing so many cigarettes, man? He said, I just got out, and haven't had none in a while, and I'm making, up for lost time. And, they talked to him before he went to Fred's house. And they remember seeing all the cigarettes and, and talking to him about, him having so many. And then when they were visiting up at Fred's, because they're visitors of Fred's as well, they seen Laura and them smoking. They seen, them smoking the same brand as Cotton had in his vehicle that day. Fred did not pass the lie detector's test. It was inconclusive. And inconclusive's pretty much the same as you failed it, right? You failed it. It's showing deception. Pretty much, same thing as you failed the damn thing. That it's just not enough found that they can use it against you to pressure you even more. Well, they can't use it in court, but they also can't use it to pressure you even further into, telling the truth. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, it's sad because he just got out of jail. I mean, these people didn't even let him enjoy. They didn't even let him enjoy his freedom. They didn't, I'm going to tell you, Fred wouldn't want someone to do to him what happened to Cotton, right? He wouldn't want that to happen to him. And his buddy that was with Fred wouldn't want it to happen to him either. I mean, none of them would want, what happened to Summer to happen to them, right? They wouldn't want that. In my opinion, they destroyed this little girl so that they could all keep from going to prison. That's my opinion. And I'm going to tell you, they wouldn't want someone to do that to them, but yet, they're evil enough, no mercy. They'll do it to someone else. I'm going to tell you what the Bible says. It says, if you don't have mercy, you will not obtain mercy. That's what it says. And I'm going to tell you another secret. We're only here for a short time. All of us. We're only here for a short time. And the main goal of being here is to show God that you can be good enough to live forever. You don't live forever here. On this earth, you live a day. You live a day. That's what it feels like when it comes, compare this life to forever. You live a day. One day. Maybe not even that compared to forever. But you're going to spend forever in the place of your choice. And it is your choice. It ain't, don't blame no one else for where you end up at. Nobody, if you make it to heaven, nobody can take credit for your success. You did that on your own. You worked hard to win your gown, and you did that on your own. No one can take the credit for your success. But if you end up in Hades, no one can take credit for your failure either. That was all you. You can either be successful or you can be a failure. It's each human's choice. But remember, wherever you end up at, right? Wherever we end up at, we must remember that was our choice. And we had a choice. And I don't think Fred and Candace and Grandis, Jody, Susan, Andy's, I don't even think Cotton was making the right choice. They weren't like us. They wasn't like us. They wasn't trying to do their best every day. They wasn't getting up every day trying to help other people and trying to be a success in this life and be kind, loving, and caring. They weren't like us. They was waking up every day thinking about, who they could use, who they can abuse, and who they can get, to swindle something out of. They woke up every day looking for self-gain. No give, just all take. You guys know I'm telling the truth. And when you get up every day, no give, all take, you're not living right. You're not living right. You should get up every day living for God, God first, but then you live for everybody else second. And you really don't have to live for yourself, because God will take care of you. If you're doing everything right, God will take care of you. You don't have to worry about yourself, because God's got you. Right? And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're living righteously, you know what I'm talking about. Who decides the 3 questions? What 3 questions? What are the 3 questions? This is something Molly's got going on with to for the best out of there. The questions that get asked to Fred will be at the discretion of the person giving the lie detector's test. The person giving the test will ask the questions, and then Fred will answer the questions. I know that Fred and Andy Bernard is supposed to be right now willing to take lie detector's test if someone sets them up and pays for them. Lie detector's tests are about $500 to get a good one. To get, this is to get a professional, like, a professional person to do it. They're about $500 each. And I say, let's call their bluff. Let's set it up. Let's set it up and see if they show up. Right? I like to see them show up. And before they show up, I would like them to, also, they need to, it needs to be set up It needs to be set up with, a drop, they need to drop before they take the test to make sure they ain't got no substances, no type of substances in their body that would alter the test. Like they haven't took, anything that'll slow down, their pulse and everything. Nothing that, no type of relaxers or anything that's going to hinder the, a real reading, right? So even if you got paid the $500 per test, they would have to agree, to drop, before the test is done. To also, show that, they had nothing in their system that would alter the test as well. So you'd have to pay for that too. You would have to pay for each one of them to show up at a clinic and, and do a screening before they went in the afternoon to take the lie detectors test. Or better yet, have them drop after. Have them take the lie detectors test in the morning and then drop in the afternoon. That'd be a better call. Because see, if they drop before the test, they could still take something. I didn't, I let that one slide by me for a second. The best thing to do is have them drop after they take the test. Same day after they take the test. If they're going to take the test like in the morning, then have them go, within a 2 hour range. Because there's some stuff that could get out of your system pretty quick. So you'd want them to, have like this 2 hour span. If they go at 1 o'clock, take the lie detectors test, and at 3 o'clock, they need to show up at the clinic and drop to see if, be screened if anything's in their system. That way we would know. We'll know if they had anything, if they took anything prior to try to alter that test. But if they agree to one, then they should agree with the other, If they're agreeing with one, they should agree with the, with the screening as well. And to be screened like that, probably about $100, to show up at a clinic and be screened. And you can make the appointments back to back. Just saying. But I wouldn't expect them to show up. If they got to be screened right after the lie detectors test, I don't think they're going to show up. Right? And I think that's the way law enforcement should do it too. Law enforcement should, when someone comes in to take a lie detectors test, they should be screened right after. They should have to drop right after the test. They should have to be dropped, do a drop to see if there was anything in their system that would hinder that lie detectors test. If they took any type of medication that could, could mess it up. That's just my opinion. I think we would catch a lot of these people, get a lot more truth with what we're dealing with if we did it that way. I also think that every missing child's case should be treated as a criminal case from day one, the second that the call comes in. I think that, all the people should be removed and the place taped off and only professionals brought in to collect all the evidence. And the family should not, be allowed to return until, law enforcement's had time to calm the whole entire scene and collect everything that needs to be collected for the sake of the missing person. And or the missing person is found. If the child did wander off or something and it's found, then okay, let's take down the tape, let the people back in their home. But if the child's not found, then it should stay taped off and everything searched and every bit of evidence they could find found before the family's allowed to return upon that property. That's just, I think they should get in there, forensics should get in there and do everything that needs to be done to figure out if there's any foul play. Instead of, messing it all up. Right. They mess up the case. They drop the ball. They mess the whole case up. And, and I also think that, states should start funding training for all of these law enforcement. They should have to go through special training when it comes to, missing people, especially children. I think they should have to go through special training how to handle the case from day one, how to handle everything and properly do what needs to be done. Education and all of that is the number one tool. I don't care how many tools you hand someone, if you don't, equip them how to use these tools, educate them first. Well, they're useless. And everyone should have to go through it. You see, cases are not handled the way, we watch it on TV. That's a movie. It's not handled like that. Most of the time, law enforcement's called and you got these rookie cops pulling up and, and they're not just pulling up, but they're screwing up everything, right? They're handling, touching, stomping, and they don't know how to show up and start removing all the people and putting up the tape and blocking everything off for the real professionals to come in and handle what needs to be handled after that, right? They show up and the next thing you know, they're stomping all over the place and more people, more family, more friends, more people are showing up and walking all over everything like, Robin and her flute playing buddy and Fred going up on the hill and who God knows who else, Jody Sue all over the place and, well, shit's getting destroyed. Stuff is getting destroyed. These people shouldn't even have been, allowed anywhere near that crime scene. But Ronnie Lawson wasn't treating it as a crime scene. And by the time he did, everything was lost. Right? Drop the ball. And that's what you get when you're, when you're thinking, you ain't got, when you don't have time to think, you've got to know and handle it properly from the word go. Yeah, they're messed up. I know Summers was. And I don't have a lot of faith in humans. Law enforcement is nothing but humans just like us. They're humans with a badge on, just like we are. We're humans. They're humans with a badge. And, they're no different than you. They're no different than me. They just, they just got a uniform and a badge. That's the only difference between law enforcement and, they were regular citizens out there too before they became law enforcement. I don't have all this faith in human beings. Humans mess up, man. I don't care if you're law enforcement. I don't care, if you're president. I don't care who the hell you are. Congressmen, governors, I don't care. Everybody screws up. We all make mistakes. But in some situations, we can't afford that. And in these missing kids cases, we can't afford it. Right? Up in our government, we can't afford it. There's some places there's just no room for mistakes. That's just the way it is. All right, you guys, I've kept you in here long enough. I'm going to head out of here, but not before I asked you, please, please, please keep the prayers going up for Summer, Moon, Utah, Wells, from our lips to God's ears through his son, Jesus Christ. Keep those prayers going up. God does everything on his time, not ours. His way is the right way, not ours. I'm not going to question God. I just know he hears us. And he'll answer when he wants to. God ain't going to be forced to do anything. He's just going to, he's just going to hear us. And he's going to answer on his own time. Nobody can push God, and I ain't going to even try. I wouldn't try. But I know he hears us. He's been pulling the truth. We know so much more now than we did at the beginning. God's let us catch a lot of things, bring them out here, and put it on the table. Right out of the horses' mouths. So God is working, and he is pulling it to the light. Whatever you do in the darkness shall be pulled to the light. This will be completely pulled into the light, but it'll be pulled on God's timing, not ours. So don't lose faith. Keep praying. Keep your faith in God and keep the prayers going up. And I'm going to tell you, prayers without faith are empty. You got to know God's going to do it. You got to know when you pray, like Jesus said, if you truly believe that God is going to answer, he will. Jesus says, pray and know that you've already got it, because you do. What you ask of the Father, you understand that it is already on its way. If it ain't already there now, it's on its way. That's what Jesus said. And if you want that God to answer that prayer, then you better know that it's on its way and it's going to be answered. Because if you're praying and you don't know it's on its way and you don't believe it's going to be answered, then it probably won't. We are healed by our faith, and our prayers are answered by our faith as well. We got to keep faith. And the faith of a mustard seed can move a whole mountain. It could uproot trees. It don't take much faith in God to get things done. So keep the faith, you guys. Keep the prayers going up for Summer. Please keep them going up for Summer. Keep them going up for Michael, for Sebastian, for Jack and Lily. Keep them going up for one another. Keep them going up for one another. And I'd like to ask for prayers for me and mine, but I'm going to ask that those prayers go to these missing kids as well. Good night, everybody. God bless. Much love.